Am I the a-hole for not giving my brother my lottery winnings despite his financial struggles? I, 28 female, recently won a significant amount of money in the lottery. It wasn't a jackpot, but it was enough to make a big difference in my life, around $500,000, pre-tax. I've always been pretty careful with money, and I plan to use it to pay off my student loans, put a down payment on a house, and maybe start a small business I've always dreamed of. My brother, 32 male, found out about my winnings through our parents. He's been struggling financially for years due to poor money management and some bad luck, and he has a lot of debt. He called me and congratulated me, then immediately asked if I could help him out by giving him $30,000 to pay off his debts and get back on his feet. I sympathize with his situation, but I feel like giving him such a large amount of money won't really solve his problems in the long term. I've seen him blow through money before, and I worry that this would just be another cycle. I told him that I'm willing to help him create a budget plan and even give him a smaller amount, like $5,000, to help with immediate needs, but he got really upset. He accused me of being selfish and not caring about family. Our parents are split on the issue. My mom thinks I should help him out because family helps family, but my dad agrees that my brother needs to learn to manage his own finances. I feel conflicted because I do care about my brother, but I also believe in being responsible with my money and making sure it lasts. Am I the a-hole for not giving my brother a larger portion of my lottery winnings despite his financial struggles?
Not the a-hole. It is your money to do with as you wish. After taxes, it will seem to be a lot of money, but do the math on your own expenses in your life, and you will realize it won't last nearly as long as it might seem. It's a good buffer to give you some room to feel more comfortable taking some risks and pursuing your own life goals. Take advantage of that, protect it, and ignore the noise from others.
Index pointing up lights get on this. Family helps family seems to be the universal go-to line from other family members who are the enablers of bad behavior and are not willing to help out anyone themselves.
Not the a-hole, you even offered to teach him how to manage finances because he's bad with them? This knowledge could fix his debt in and of itself if he would actually listen to it. That said, you're not required to give him any money, and offering $5,000 for immediate issues with teaching him how to manage finances is extremely generous in my opinion. It's not like you're tripling your income, you just happened across a substantial sum of money. Saving it as much as you can and putting it towards good things is an extremely good idea that nobody should be able to fault you for. Good luck with your business if you do start it up OP.
Not the a-hole, I will share my own experience, not winning the lotto, but helping out someone struggling with money. He was struggling with what I thought was credit card debt. So it started small, paying for lunch, concert tickets, a thing for his daughter's school. And then he asked me for thousands to help pay off his credit card. I gave it to him, thinking I was helping him get straight away. Gave him a book to read and spent time looking at his budget with him. Turns out he was lying all along, and the reason he was so behind on everything was that he was hiding his online poker problem. I was angry and sad and felt resentment about being lied to. It took time and we've moved on and are still friends, although the friendship is different now. It's your money, I get that family is family guilt, but do what your gut tells you. Take care of all of your needs first. After all of that is taken care of, and if you want to help him, I would consider giving it to him with strings attached. Match his payments to pay off his debt if he'll show you a written budget for that month or something along those lines. Or once he pays off $5,000, you'll give him another $5,000.
Never mention a sudden windfall to anyone. Not the a-hole.
Am I the a-hole for telling my dad and his wife they are not entitled to a say in the decision-making of other adults even if they raised those adults? My dad, 62 male, and his wife, 59 female, Mary got married 16 years ago. Both were widowed with children. Dad had me, 10 male then 26 male now, my sister, 8 female then 24 female now, and my other sister, 7 female then 23 female now. Mary had Jess, 9 female then 25 female now, her son, 6 male then 22 male now, and her other daughter, 4 female then 20 female now. Dad and Mary wanted to make a nuclear family and a more traditional family where Mary would stay at home. Be the mom to all of us, and dad would be dad to all of us and work and be the less involved in the day-to-day childcare parent. I never accepted Mary as my parent. I never called her mom. I resent her deeply for asking frequently when I was a child. Jess never accepted my dad either. She feels the same about him that I do about Mary. My sisters call Mary Mama because they called our mom Mom. Jess' younger siblings just call Dad Dad. Jess and I never considered us all a family. We both missed our late parents and would cause chaos by bringing them up sometimes to put the step-parent's spouse in their place and remind them that they weren't forgotten. I'd do this with Dad too, and I would remind him that my mom wasn't replaceable and her place in my life could never be filled by anyone else. I am low contact with Dad and Mary now. Jess had a baby in the last 2 years. She named her daughter after her dad. This upset my dad and Mary. I found out about this a little over a month ago because my wife and I had a son and his name was my mom's middle name, which she was known as by close friends and family. Mary was hurt that I honored one grandmother over the other. My dad also told me I should have found some way to honor Mary, maybe using her maiden name, etc. They have not met my son and I did not reach out to them. They reached out to me. They told me Jess doing the same was such an intentional snub against our family and them as parents. Mary told me I should have reached out to her and checked if my decision was okay with her. I should have included her and Dad in this. Dad said the same. I pointed out they are hardly in my life anymore, which is how I prefer it, so I'd never include them. I ignored calls and texts for a few more weeks until Friday. Mary told me this was not how someone treats their mother. I responded that she was never my mother. She was never my real mother, who died when I was still a child. I told her claiming she was part of what made me so distant from them. They both decided to FaceTime me that night and told me I made such a big and hurtful decision without discussing it with them, how Jess had done the same, and they rambled on like that. I told them they're not entitled to a say in the decision-making of adults even if they raised them. I told them Jess and I do not need their permission and clearly we don't care what they want. I was called rude, entitled, and ungrateful for having such loving parents. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. They are major a-holes for expecting their kids to just forget about their dead parents so they can play happy family.
Mary actually told me on a few occasions that my sisters could call her mama and accept her as their mother, so I should have been capable of doing that too. Because girls were meant to be more difficult for stepmothers and hold on to petty girly fights. But as a boy, I should have been more open and willing to let her fill in as my mom. I should have loved and bonded with her easier. I always found it so pathetic that she had that thought to begin with.
So she's also sexist. You have nothing to feel guilty for.
Ugh, not the a-hole at all. Good for you going low contact. Just curious, do you and Jess and her other step-sibs have relationship? I wondered if you two maybe had a bond over not playing along with your dad and Mary's scheme.
We don't. We hardly ever interacted with each other, even though the two of us were very like-minded on that. I know for me, I hated the idea that we would be called brother and sister just for bonding over that. I don't have any contact with her or her siblings now. All the stuff I know about them is from my siblings, who know about Jess because of my other step-siblings.
Not the a-hole. Sounds like your father and Mary can't accept that you and Jess still remember your other birth parent and do not want to just move on and forget about them. You are 100% entitled to live your life as you wish and try to have as much or as little contact with your parent and step-parent as you wish. They do not have to be asked how you or Jess name your child, LOL. Sorry for your loss. Sorry your father and step-parent could never accept that you and Jess do not see the step-parent in the same way as your other birth parent. It's an unreasonable expectation demand that you do, and they should have dropped it long ago.
Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I'm not going to live with him? For some background, I'm 16, and I live with my mom and see my dad sometimes. My parents aren't divorced or married, they just don't live together and never have. My mom is going through cancer treatment. She didn't want to tell anyone, but my dad found out, and now he wants me to come live with him. I don't want to. My dad's house stresses me out. Too many people live there. It's him, his sister, his father, his other kids, 24 male and 22 female, and a revolving door of cousins. It's so loud. Someone is always screaming. It's technically bigger than my mom's place, but there's nowhere near enough space. I have to share a room with 22 female and any visiting cousins. I couldn't keep anything there even if I wanted to unless I want it destroyed or thrown away in an attempt to clean up because there's too much stuff everywhere. My mom's house is the opposite. Unless her friends are over, it's just me and her. It's clean, quiet, relaxed. Of course there's talking and we play music at all hours, but it's a normal volume. There's almost never yelling. I have a cat, another thing not possible at my dad's, my own room, even my own bathroom. We have an entire area dedicated to books and records, something that could never happen at my dad's. I've tried to tell him politely that I want to stay with my mom. Her treatment isn't that major. She says it was caught early and everything should be back to normal before the end of the year. He didn't take it well, and is telling me I don't get a choice here. He's my father, and my mother isn't a fit parent right now. I don't agree. My mom is fine. There's not even a custody order in place or anything, and it seems too late to get one as I'm already 16. We had a huge argument. He's calling me disrespectful and says I need to obey my parents. His other kids are joining in to say I'm being a spoiled brat and that I'm part of the family and living with my mom isn't real life.
Not the a-hole. My mom was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. Like your mom's case, it was caught early, she's already completed her treatment and she's fine. And, like in your mom's case, the treatments weren't debilitating and her life pretty much went on as usual. Plus, you're 16 and likely already caring for yourself to some extent. So between that and your mom's condition, there's no need for you to shift houses. Tell your dad that if the situation starts to go sideways, you'll let him know. And tell your half-siblings to mind their own business. On a side note, if your mom were actually sick from the cancer and/or treatment, did he expect you to just up and abandon her at a time when she most needed help?
Sounds like Dad's sick of paying child support. Not the a-hole.
He probably isn't paying child support. Not married, never have been. Never lived together, and no custody order. He's trying to save face to someone, I bet, because he's definitely not paying child support. Custody orders have to exist for child support to exist.
Not the a-hole. They sound awful. You're right to make this choice. The description of your home is very different from the chaos you described at his house. His other kids are joining in to say I'm being a spoiled brat, and that I'm part of the family and living with my mom isn't real life. They're idiots.
Not real life? Is your mom's house in virtual reality? Narnia? You know what sounds like dealing with a real life? Stepping up to take care of your mother while she undergoes cancer treatment. Maybe she doesn't need much actual care. But I'm sure having her loving daughter around for moral support and maybe doing some extra dishes sometime will mean a lot to your mom. Not the a-hole, your dad is though. It doesn't sound like him telling you to move in comes from concern for your well-being and more of a power trip to get you away from your mom. Don't go. If there is no official custody agreement in place, there is nothing he can do.
Why is spoiled brat the go-to response from adults when someone younger than them says no? Every time I've disagreed with my older siblings, that is their rejoinder. JFC, we're all past middle age and nothing has changed for 50 plus years. OP's father needs to get a grip and deal with reality.
Not the a-hole. It makes zero sense for you to uproot your life in this scenario. Don't even entertain your dad's, or his other, kids' antics. Stay right where you are with a perfectly clear conscience. Had your mother weighed in on any of this? Seems to me she would appreciate your staying with her while she's going through treatment, even if it's not major.
Dad's going to alienate his kid damn quick, and find out that not only do they not need to obey his every whim, but he could very easily push them away to the point where they cut all contact. I've seen it happen before. I'm not suggesting that OP cut contact, mind you. I don't know their situation well enough. But Dad needs to wake up and realize that this is a very real possibility if he keeps acting this way.
Am I the a-hole for not checking on my friend after she dropped out of my wedding party? I was very excited to ask two of my girls who I see the most to be in my wedding party. Let's call them Lisa and Shelly. They both said yes, and it was great. But 3 months in, 4 months before the wedding, Lisa said she couldn't afford it and was dropping out. I said it was all right, but I was a bit hurt. I had so far asked them to buy a dress that was around $100 to $120 and had paid for drinks and food at the one meeting we've had. Lisa and her boyfriend both work and make decent money and pay low rent since I rented them a suite as I manage a building, so I was confused that they couldn't afford it. Shelly isn't working much, so I said I could help her pay for her dress if it would help. After Lisa dropped out, I asked Shelly if she was still okay doing it. Her and Lisa are very close also, so I just wanted to be sure. She said she did, and that was great. That same night on our group chat with the other 4 girls in the wedding party, Shelly started texting that it was crazy I expected them to pay $100 for a dress to be in the wedding and dropped out on the chat. I was really hurt and felt confused why 2 of my closest friends, who I have always been there for, wouldn't step up to be a part of my wedding when I would do anything to be in theirs if they asked. As my wedding isn't far, I needed to replace one of them soon and knew the perfect girl to do it. So I asked her the next day so she could have time to prepare, etc. She was so happy and said she'd be honored. I had wanted to ask her, but we already had 6 people each, so I was happy that I got a chance to after what had happened. It honestly made the hurt of my 2 besties dropping out a bit less. I didn't need to replace Lisa because her boyfriend was in the wedding party too, so they just both dropped out. After about a week of nothing from Shelly, I get a text message saying how awful it is that I didn't check on her to see how she was doing or to make sure she didn't want to do it before I replaced her. I am absolutely floored that she is angry with me about this. She has since sent me messages saying how hurt she is and that she doesn't know me anymore and has started saying bad things about my fiancé to people they both know. I don't even know if there is a friendship to salvage after this. Am I the worst friend ever? Or is it normal that I'm thinking maybe she never was my friend?
Not the a-hole. $100 is super reasonable for a bridesmaid's dress. And what were you supposed to be checking on her about? Like honestly? It's your wedding. She dropped out. You didn't have to double check anything. Some people really do think the entire universe revolves around them. You're good. I'd be cutting off someone bad-mouthing me and my fiancé.
I've always been the nice one of this group and kind of get walked on. Not badly really, but enough to hurt a little all the time. And now that I'm not doing what I always have, she's being rude. I'm honestly a little worried she might do something to or at the wedding.
These aren't your friends. She unexpectedly dropped out of the party for financial reasons, which you assumed to be unlikely, but nonetheless accepted her decision gracefully. Then you're supposed to ask her if she's okay? And what? Beg her to come back? Nah, no reasonable person would expect that. I think it would be wise to replace her in your bridal party and your life in general.
Shelly started texting that it was crazy I expected them to pay $100 for a dress to be in the wedding. Do these people live in the 1980s? From Shelly, I get a text message saying how awful it is that I didn't check on her to see how she was doing or to make sure she didn't want to do it before I replaced her. Why would you do either of those? Why would you wait around on getting a replacement when the date is just around the corner? What a weirdo. She's not going to the wedding, is she? Not the a-hole.
She wanted to OP running after her. She wanted to create drama. Maybe main person syndrome. Some people love to create drama to get attention when it is not at all convenient.
I was thinking it was something along these lines with a good chance of psychological issues involved too.
Not the a-hole. I don't understand why she would expect you to. She dropped out of the wedding after being snarky about the $100 for the dress. Very reasonable, by the way. They sound like awful friends. Block them. Not worth stressing over.
$100 is very reasonable for a wedding. Consider how many brides have destination weddings, as well as expensive bachelorette parties. Your friends sound very unreasonable.
I don't understand why any bridesmaid have to pay for their own dresses. When I got married, I paid for dresses and suit hire.
I've literally just commented this. If it's your wedding and you ask someone to be in it, you're covering their costs. Must be a US thing, cause I'm UK too and have never been asked to contribute any costs towards a wedding I'm invited to.
I was wondering this, thought maybe it was a US thing because I'm in the UK.
It's a US thing. Basically standard.
Am I the a-hole for being too open about my reasons for not drinking at a family dinner? I'm a 34-year-old man who hasn't consumed alcohol since the beginning of 2023. I have a 2-year-old daughter and a lot of lingering trauma from my dad drinking a lot. He wasn't an alcoholic in the traditional sense. He still worked and provided a good life for us materially, but he was always drinking. I could never connect with him outside of his drinking. The smell of alcohol, the slurred words, the way his mood would change, it all left a mark on me. I don't want the same for me and my child. I want to be present and fully engaged in her life without the influence of alcohol. Everyone in my life has accepted my decision except my father-in-law. He constantly asks why I don't drink and makes jokes like, "Oh, it's just wine, it's just grape juice," because he thinks it's hilarious. I've told him multiple times that I don't drink, but he doesn't take me seriously. It's frustrating and tiring to keep saying no. Last week, we met my wife's sister's fiancé for the first time. They live in a different country. We were all getting dinner, and the fiancé asked what I was drinking. I said nothing, and he asked why I don't drink. I kind of lost it. I told him the truth, that my dad was a drinker and I don't want to put my child through what I went through. He looked taken aback and didn't say much after that. Later, my wife told me that I was an a-hole for being so open about it at the first meeting and making things awkward. She said there was no need to bring up my dad's drinking and that I should have kept it simple. I argued that I've had enough of being questioned about my choices and that maybe now her dad will get the message too. Am I the a-hole for being too open about my reasons for not drinking and potentially making the situation awkward?
If you had said this to your father-in-law, I absolutely would have said you weren't being an a-hole. But this was your wife's sister's fiancé who you all were meeting for the first time who asked you. He didn't deserve to be on the receiving end of all the frustration you have with your father-in-law. I totally understand how aggravating it must be to be asked and needled and teased all the time about why you don't drink, and how it's triggering based on your childhood, and how you shouldn't have to explain so thoroughly why you don't choose to drink. But in this situation, yeah, kinda you are the a-hole for launching all of that at a brand new soon-to-be family member. You might have said, "I don't drink because I choose not to," and left it at that, if he chose to dig in more. Anybody can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. Aristotle.
Nah, it wasn't any of that guy's business why he chooses to abstain. Don't ask questions if you don't want the answers. Not the a-hole.
Yeah, I'm voting everyone sucks here, because he lost it on the wrong person. But also, it's 2024, people should know by now not to ask questions when someone is not drinking alcohol, because the reasons are almost always personal.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.